Hey folks, my name is Nevko Guljevic and welcome to another episode where we talk about our money because guess what? Money does matter. And there's a lot of news and a lot of information about kind of what's happening with COVID, and I'm going to leave the health stuff to the health experts, okay? But what I do want to talk about is something that I have noticed that is very interesting and unique, and that is what I call the COVID deflationary inflation. What the heck does that mean? I mean, we know what the deflation is, right? Like the thing goes from big down to the small. We know what inflation is. It means goes from small to big, even bigger, and it kind of inflates on up. But what's deflationary inflation? Like, how does that work? And that is exactly what I want to spend a little bit of time talking to you about today. So this is kind of what I am meaning when I talk about these things. For one, we see a deflation in certain aspects of our lives and a large inflation in others. Here's some of the stuff that is deflationary, meaning prices are going down for certain things. One of those things is going to be assets. Now, if you look around, you will notice that the stock market has been going down. That's very much a deflationary component of what's transpiring within that market. You also notice that tech stuff is going to be much cheaper and has been much cheaper for a couple of decades now, right? So computers 20 years ago or even 10 years ago were much more expensive and yet not as powerful as what we can find today for a fraction of the cost. The third thing that is quite deflationary is in employment expenses. Because of what is happening currently with the virus, a lot of people unfortunately have been let go of, have been furloughed, meaning they're sort of employed but they're not getting money. And what large businesses are doing that can do this, they're hiring employees at a faster pace. They are increasing the employment base, but they are cutting down on the income that folks are experiencing. You might have seen this even prior to COVID-19, but I think we see it even more now because people are desperate, they need a job. And so whereas before you would command a job of, say, $75,000 a year, now you're perfectly happy because you don't have anything else to take a job that pays $50,000 a year. That is also deflationary. And we've seen that our income hasn't kept pace with inflation, with the asset inflation that we have seen, meaning the prices of the assets have been going up, the costs of things like education and food, living expenses, housing, that kind of stuff. That is sort of what has been happening, and what we're noticing is that these deflationary forces are getting even stronger now, which is why I'm talking about that deflation is what is coming. And it's also the reason why the banks, like central banks, for example, are printing all of this money, pumping in liquidity to make sure that some of these things can actually go up in price, because now we have been sort of taught to believe that the wellness of the nation, wealth of the nation, is priced by not just the GDP and productivity, but based off of the stock market, which is not true, but that is sort of where the belief is. And so in order to boost the confidence, we have to keep boosting the market. The second part of the reason for that is that we have about 55% of the people that are involved in the stock market through their 401ks, 403bs, IRAs, and other sort of retirement vehicles that we have. All of our pensions are also heavily invested in the stock market, and so those that are not necessarily in their retirement savings accounts on their own, but are banking on the pensions to pay them, so that's going to be like teachers, firefighters, police officers, and that kind of stuff, are also depending on these pensions making mad amounts of money to be able to pay them. Also, we have higher education institutions, which the costs have gone up. And right now, there is no signal to say that the prices will go down for those things. But what we're also seeing is that these schools have large endowments in the stock market, and they too, in order for them to survive, depend on the stock market going up. So because a large amount of population depends on the stock market going up, they need to prop it as much as they possibly can, which is where we're seeing this liquidity coming in. And this is sort of the deflationary components that we're seeing right now. Those things are going down in price. This unfortunately sounds quite lovely because we're all thinking like, yes, I can get into this stuff. But the bad part is that because these components over here, like assets, tech, and income, have been going down in price, that's something that the haves, or the people who have a lot of wealth, are able to go in and invest as the prices go down. Now, we also have something very interesting that is happening on the other side of the coin, and that's inflation. What are the things that are inflating? What are the things that are going up in value? Well, you likely already know what that is. Housing is going to be one of those things. The prices of rentals as well as homes have gone up. Now, they probably won't be going up for forever, but that's kind of where we find ourselves. So it's sort of like this weird situation that we are in. The second piece is health. Our health insurance, co-payments, cost of anything health related, from your medicine to the doctor's visit to anything health related that you can think of, has gone up. Now, I know that there has been some stimulus right now to kind of help people who might get sick with COVID-19 to be able to cover those expenses, but most of us don't have that. We have some other underlying conditions that may or may not allow for the COVID to kind of be covered. That's sort of a very sad and scary part of it. Food is a number 3. Food has actually gone up tremendously over the last few weeks or months. And the reason for that is because, there are not as many producers out there. The farmers markets have largely closed. So the small farm producers, small food producers are not able to reach the public as much. All of it is commercialized, and you have to go and stand in lines, wait for forever to go in and buy food. Because the demand is high still, and production is starting to slow down because of everything that is happening, the prices of things are going up. You also notice that some of the basic living components like cleaning supplies, toilet paper, gloves, masks, all of those things have gone up in price tremendously because there's such a large demand for those things and higher utilization because, most of us didn't clean our homes 3-4 times a day, but now I know that there are some folks that are disinfecting everything, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and maybe snack time too. So now we're using all of those products way more, including soap, right, and hot water, that prices of those things have gone up because we're simply using more of it and people demand it. That is what affects the have-nots, meaning the regular people like you and I who are just trying to figure out the way to sort of survive and make through this stuff. This is a very scary component because what it does, it separates the haves from the have-nots, and it's creating the larger divide. That is highly problematic because we have already seen that the middle class is actually going down in numbers. And when we eliminate the middle class, now we're going to have a handful of highly powerful and rich individuals and a vast majority of people that don't have any money, any wealth, any of that stuff. This is incredibly important for you to know and understand so that you can start positioning yourself in a different manner so that you can try to preserve as much of your wealth as possible. I'm not going to cover all of those things in this video, but it will be coming, and it's also some of the videos that I have already posted on the channel. So make sure you subscribe, hit that bell button so when a new thing comes up, you get notified and you're able to watch and preserve and potentially even grow your wealth as we go through this crisis that has already begun about a month ago. Until next time, stay forever money blessed, and do remember, you are only one deal away.